Hello once again, mortals. It's been a while since I last posted to this odd social media platform of yours, yet here I am with the first episode of that series I promised you. As you know, this show is called Marya's Toony Terrors, and the reason is quite simple, really. The truth is that it's because of the possibilities animation gives storytellers that live action cannot. You see, even though I am my daddy's little vamplet, horror wasn't always my scene. In those live-action flicks dad shows, there are rules to what you can and can't do. With animation, those rules are yours to make. You can decide how your characters move, how the world works, the colors you fill reality with, and so much more. Essentially, reality is yours to control and bend to your will. You can let your imagination run wild without the boring world we live in getting in your way. And that freedom is what I love about animation. Essentially, if you can draw it, you can do it. And on that note, we get to my favorite kind of animation. What is that, you say? Well, it's anything and everything horror-based. So many movies from your olden days have animated adaptations. What's more, monster cartoons for monster kids are out there and are oddly obscure for the masses. So my mission here on this little corner of your mortal platform is to bring you reviews and discussions to document these crazy horror animations and bring you the Toony Terrors that endured on your screen or died just as quickly as Dad will if another steak finds him. With that said, I am proud to present to you the first ever installment of Marya's Toony Terrors, in which we will discuss 1991's Little Shop. Allow me to light the way. This is a cartoon of the lowest caliber, or at least that's what many might say. This series was intended to be an animated adaptation of the beloved B-movie turned musical Little Shop of Horrors. Oh. No wonder Sandor was trying to hide that bag from me. Oh, Sandor's my retainer. He's kind of clever in a way. Always knows how to hide surprises. But anyways, the musical was in a way the beginning of what I like to call the first Disney Broadway legacy. You see, the musical's music was composed by Alan Menken, and its lyrics were written by the late Howard Ashman. The duo became so well known for their work on the musical that they went on to work for Disney and create some of the most memorable songs in the company's library, such as Be Our Guest, Friend Like Me, and my personal favorite, Part of Your World. But when talking solely about Little Shop of Horrors, Menken and Ashman had a hit long before Disney. And how do I know? Well, because in 1986, a movie version of their musical starring Rick Moranis as Seymour Krelborn was released. So, with the musical being as popular as it was at this point, it leads one to wonder just how much you could ride its coattails by the time Little Shop premiered on the Fox Kids network in 1991. Well, the answer is simple. You could come pretty close. In fact, people were already doing it with the musical's original source material by the time the 1986 movie musical was released. Sure, the original Roger Corman film came out in 1960, but it endured enough to inspire both the musical sensation and those who sought to make a quick buck to slap a picture of Jack Nicholson on it without any fear of getting in trouble for copyright infringement. Sandor, show the pics! But why is this possible?
How on earth could you or I get away with making money off of Roger Corman's creation?
Well, it's because the movie isn't technically his anymore.
Since its release, The Little Shop of Horrors has fallen into the public domain, meaning that anyone can use it for any reason they see fit. So essentially, this show exists because of Rick Moranis' film version of Little Shop of Horrors musical did well. That is, according to a review of this series by Immortal on YouTube, who goes by the Media Mementos kid. As he put it, quote, "The entire existence of this show is forced into C. Little Shop of Horrors at this time was a pretty big movie, so a show comes on Fox Kids and advertises itself as Little Shop. Therefore, you are free to assume this is based off of the pop culture phenomenon," end quote. But instead, the people behind Little Shop took advantage of the public domain status of Corman's original film to cash in on the success of Ashman and Lincoln's musical both on stage and on screen. Who exactly were these people? Well, there are not many worth noting. However, we do have two that are worth talking about. The first is, surprisingly, Roger Corman himself, who served as a creative consultant for the series, and the second is a man by the name of Chaim Saban. Saban's company, which is also called Saban, produced the show. They had one goal, to create something, quote, so unique, so funny, and so odd, that a child who doesn't watch it will feel as if he's missing something, end quote. And that quote was actually found by another reviewer on YouTube who goes by the username Space Tree Studios, just for citation's sake. Saban is known for more than this odd little animation, however, as they are also the company behind a hit franchise you may know as Power Rangers. A few other odd ends I should disclose are that Space Tree Studios' research into the show found Marvel credited as part of the production team, and that after I looked into the show myself, just to figure out the voice actors, they were pretty much obscure no-names. That is, all of them except for Tara Strong, who you may know from her work as Raven in various Teen Titans cartoons, and as Twilight Sparkle in My Little Pony Friendship's Magic. Strong is only credited as additional voices on IMDb, which probably means she did not play any of the principal characters. But that's pretty much it for the voice actors. And now that we have all of that out of our way, let's take a look at what this show really has in store for us.
I'm Seymour Krelborn, and I've spent 13 years trying to become a nerd. You see, my problem is, I've got everything it takes to be a nerd. Except brains.
This show's first episode is just like any other pilot, working to establish our plot and characters so we're prepared for what we're going to see throughout the series. However, it is a bit bland compared to the other episodes and brings my main point of contention with the series to light. That point being its music. Now, my cousin Emmeline is a nut with these things, and she often tells me that music is essential no matter what on-screen media format you're using. It can set up so much that people talking and set pieces just can't do. To quote her specifically, if some on-screen media makes use of music, regardless of if words are used in the music or not, it is doing either one of two things. The first option is that they are trying to invite the audience into its world, usually via theme music, or it wants to clue the audience in as to what they should feel about a scene or a scenario. End quote. When it comes to this first episode, the music is either absent or ineffective. Let's give context before I go any further. This first episode tells us Seymour's goals, becoming a nerd and winning Audrey's heart, and introduces us to his bully at school and those he knows from his job at the titular shop. It then shows us how Seymour met Audrey too, who is called Audrey Jr. here to coincide with Corman's film, and how the two made a deal that would benefit the both of them. Roll the clip, Sandor!
I've been watching you all day, and was it ever boring? But I got a proposition for you. I'm busting out of this overgrown meat like a tomorrow, getting my little green bud back where it belongs. You give me a hand getting home, and maybe a couple of legs, and I'll give you the thing you want most in the world.
Passing grade in science?
No, meathead. A passing glance from Audrey Mustache.
Wow.
Now what does that remind me of? Now, here's the ineffective music I was talking about. All the musical numbers in this show sound similar and do not have any sort of individuality. And while I do find myself singing some of them, which proves how much I watched this show before filming, and that some of them are memorable to a degree, it does not excuse the fact that I can play you this song and tell you that you've now heard a majority of the songs in the series. Play the clip, Sandor. The gas mask is in the back.
So bad, it's a crime of disgrace. You got stones for ground, walls in your face. Those square things you live in look suspiciously, like they're made out of stone related to me. You got spots on rubber that spit out smoke. If this place wasn't so sorry, it'd be a big joke. That's why I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Home. 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 Where my roots are. That's where I long to be. Free.
I'm sorry that I had to expose you to that, mortals, but it had to be done so you would see my point. And here's the weird thing. When we finally do get to Audrey Jr.'s home, there is no music. And we, in this scene, find out that Audrey Jr. has not only lost its home, but everyone it knows along with it. Play the clip, Sandor.
I remember when I was just a little toddler, hanging on my mother's limb. I'm gonna try, Seymour. Smell green, Seymour. Home, sweet. Whoa, my home.
There's no place like home.
Not anymore, there isn't. Just a bunch of stumps where there used to be trees.
Now, here's an edited version, where I took some license-free music from my phone and put it over the scene. Sure, it's not perfect, but it was the one that best fit after considering my limited options.
Whoa, my home.
There's no place like home.
Not anymore, there isn't. Just a bunch of stumps where there used to be trees.
So you should now understand that the absence of music makes this scene not hit as hard as it could/should, yes? Well, this is a problem throughout the show. It, like I did, had a limited set of music tracks and used what it had that didn't fit. Don't believe me? There's a musical number in the second episode of the show whose instrumental is reused in both the third and seventh episode of the series. That should tell you how little variety they had in background music.
Men don't cry, they never clean. We always lie, we're always mean. You gotta stay up late at night, ready for a fight. And if you take home rap, you never get respect. Men don't cook, can't read a book. You climb up trees, you play with bees. You don't make bread, you really have. I can hold my head up high, I'm a tough guy. It's so great to be a man, you could never understand. You're a weenie.
Hey, what's for lunch? You might be surprised. Go brace yourself, Krill boy.
Are we there yet?
Alright, so I'm close, but at least I feel fast.
Ugh! Sorry, it just makes me mad that the music here was so lazy. I've seen cartoons that aren't in any way horror related make much better use of music than this. Think Animaniacs or Cat Dog. Both shows that would come out in the same decade as this show. Sure, one example is better than the other, but you should see my point if you search up songs from either of those shows. They're memorable, at least for fans of the shows I've mentioned, and in the case of many songs from Animaniacs, have grown to be iconic and endure the test of time. There is no excuse for a show to be this lazy unless they were actually pulling at straws. But to move us away from that, I think we should discuss the rest of the pilot episode's plot, and then the other episodes. The pilot essentially ends with Audrey Jr. deciding to make a new home at the flower shop and, with its power to control anything made from plants and plants themselves, causes the flowers in the shop to grow. This is good because Mushnick's business was failing when we met him earlier in the pilot, and because he thinks Seymour made the flowers grow for some reason, allows him to keep his job after it was previously put on the line. Audrey Jr. befriends Seymour, asserting that if he did not have it in his life, he would be in, quote, a real mess, end quote. Audrey begins to notice Seymour, the bully, is still a bully, and Seymour is still a stupid nerd. But, hey, that's what the other episodes are for. Let's talk about them now, shall we? And to help us get through it faster, I have prepared short 5-sentence summaries of every episode. Let's see if we can do this in 5 minutes, shall we? Sandor, cue the clock!
Alright everybody, episode 1. Seymour finds out Audrey 2 after being used for the whole runtime. Audrey 2 wants to go home, so Seymour helps it. Audrey 2 realizes it's been asleep for 200 million years and has no home anymore. Seymour brings it back to the shop only for it to make Mushnick's shop popular. And everyone lives happily ever after except for Seymour, since he's still a loser. Episode 2! Alright, time for the sexist episode with messages saying men are weenies for wanting to learn to cook. Audrey 2 takes Seymour out of men's studies at school and puts him in home ec to try to begin doing some plant improvements. When he has to cook something, Audrey 2 helps him make his grainy vegetable stew, which uses a brain to create a sentient vegetable. After its brain, which is on a smart fridge, yes, I'm not myself, almost freezes them to death, Seymour and Audrey 2 are able to defeat it and cook it in a pot. The episode, despite sending a negative message about men who want to cook, ends with a cute feed me joke where Seymour cares for Audrey 2 after it tickles a cold. Alright guys, episode 3! Audrey 2 and Seymour go on a school field trip to the museum and sneak away to an exhibit about the Mesozoic era, where Audrey 2 reminisces about plants from being able to eat dinosaurs. After choking on a dinosaur bone, Audrey 2 realizes dinosaurs got too big to swallow and decides it must travel back in time to warn the plants of the Mesozoic era. Audrey 2 discovers how to time travel using its vegetable magnetism, which is that ability to control plants and control some plants that I mentioned earlier, and has Seymour help him despite debating whether or not it's a good idea to erase Seymour from history. After Audrey 2's time machine fails out on Napoleon Dynamite and sends Seymour flying into a botanical garden, he thinks he's been transported back to the Mesozoic era. That is Seymour, not Audrey 2. After an adventure in the past, quote-unquote, Audrey 2 rescues Seymour and the two realize how important they are to one another. Aww. Alright, episode 4. In this episode, we are introduced to Seymour's hero, a scientist named Midas Pauling, who is going to go to the school science fair. Seymour's project was dumb, but Audrey 2 makes it a working version of one of Apolling's effective inventions. It turns people into flowers, and Seymour's bully gets caught up in it, which I guess is a win for Seymour. Seymour wins the science fair, and Appalling takes him back to his lab to get rid of him and steal Audrey 2's working invention. Audrey 2, of course, saves Seymour's life and turns Appalling into a flower before the episode's end. Are you having fun yet? Because it's time for episode 5. Seymour teaches Audrey 2 about theater since he wants to be able to play with the off-speed role players. They're producing Our Town, which Audrey 2 thinks is, quote, pretty sappy, end quote, and decides it's going to write its own play under the name Thorn Tree Wildflower called Flower Town. Audrey works as a stagehand in the show until Mr. Murphy bribes the director into giving him the female lead role. Soon, Seymour finds himself in her part and discovers Audrey 2 wrote the play. The director, believing Seymour wrote the play, tries to kill him with a piano so he can put his name on it and revive his career. But Audrey's stagehand work saves Seymour's life. Alrighty, now we're on episode 6. This episode mainly centers around Audrey 2's love for a flytrap called Venus Delilah. It doesn't understand that Delilah is not sentient, but gets mad when Seymour gives its flowers to Audrey as a bouquet to use in a local parade. In response, it decides to hijack the parade flow and uses vegetable magnetism to make the plants rebel. Seymour tells it Delilah's plant is at the firehouse, but when they get there, Audrey 2 no longer likes the plant. In the end, we're supposed to learn friends will always forgive and forget, but love is always temporary. Episode 7. Seymour gets bullied while playing football, and Audrey 2 learns about humans play with teeth on the grass. It feels this as punishment and decides to attend the used shoe store refed bowl, as the episode puts it, which is the biggest football game of the year. To do this, it convinces Seymour to get shoes with natural rubber soles and uses its vegetable magnetism to make the shoes and Seymour fly. Meanwhile, Audrey, whose career choice is now a shoe salesman, she has a different career choice in the episode, is upset she's been told she doesn't have what it takes and expresses it to Seymour in a dumb song. Audrey 2's plan fails because the grass the players are playing on is artificial turf, leaving it to return to the drawing board while mumbling, and I quote, life isn't fair. Episode 8. It's Halloween and Seymour is not very thrilled. Audrey 2 is mad about pumpkins being carved up for Halloween and, quote, plant a seed, end quote, to make Seymour want to go trick-or-treating, but misses and makes Audrey want to go instead. By the way, this whole thing is the equivalent of the hypnosis powers the plant has in the Roger Corman film. It uses this as an opportunity to take all the pumpkins to the cemetery and freeze them from their carved-up existence. It leaves Seymour in the cemetery, which frightens him. The episode ends with the moral of facing the truth because, in Seymour's words, quote, I guess once you face what you're afraid of, it's not so scary anymore, end quote. Episode 9. Seymour wonders what it would be like if he was never born. As a result of this question, a hooded figure shows him how much everyone around him would benefit from his non-existence. Audrey 2 is upset about being left out of Seymour's, quote, dream, end quote, and thus inserts itself into it. In the end, we get a rap about how dreams are good even if you're a failure. I have seen this motion. And a cute scene of Audrey 2 helping Seymour get to sleep when the weather forces him to stay at the shop. Alright, episode 10. Audrey 2 gets a toothache from eating all of Seymour's mom's low-fat ice cream. Seymour lies and says it was burglars, which was just to spend the whole episode learning about why lying is bad. We also are questioning whether or not said burglars are real, and I don't think they are. This episode is also home to the worst song in the show, because it implies that religious events, which are sensitive subjects as we all know, didn't occur via its visuals. We also get the long-awaited dentist song for the show, which is meh, to be honest. Episode 11! In this episode, Audrey 2 wants to be able to walk around like Seymour. After rearranging its molecular structure and accidentally fusing with Seymour, Audrey 2 goes to school with him and he has the best day of his life. Seymour ends up joining the track team and participating in the track meet. He wins it all with Audrey 2's help until the two unfuse before the 100-yard dash. After losing that and losing the confidence Audrey 2 gave him, Seymour walks away with the lesson that he and Audrey 2 should be content with what they have. Episode 12. Audrey 2 and Seymour take a subway to see the oldest living tree in the world at the Skid Row Natural Forest, but arrive to find all the other trees in the forest except the one they came to see have been cut down. Audrey 2 is furious, but is even more so after watching the tree they came to see get cut down and hauled off to a sawmill. After failing to save the tree, Audrey 2 decides to take all of Skid Row's newspapers and send them home, I quote them from the episode, using its vegetable magnetism. When this piles up papers on Skid Row, Seymour and the other residents recycle the paper and use it for a variety of purposes. In the end, the residents plant saplings to replenish the forest, and we get a cute scene where Audrey 2 uses its vegetable magnetism to grow the saplings so Seymour will be able to see them as adult trees. Alright, finally, episode 13. Here we are introduced to Payne Driller, Seymour's bully's aunt, who tries to marry Mushnick because Audrey 2 made her think he's rich. The two actually end up falling in love, and Audrey is upset because she and her father were just fine together before. Seymour decides he's going to try to stop the wedding since if Mushnick does marry the aunt, his bully will get his job at the flower shop. After realizing Audrey 2 caused this whole mess to get Seymour more money to pay for food to feed it, Seymour has it help him in exchange for eating all the food that will be left after the cancelled wedding. They stop the wedding, and we walk away with the lesson to be glad we aren't lonely in life. Woo! How do we do on time, Sandor? 7 minutes and 23 seconds? Well, that's not 5 minutes, but it's better than when it took me 30 minutes to explain Dad's show to somebody. Anyway, that's Little Shop, mortals. 13 episodes with no overarching plot and some messages we'd rather leave in the past. But what does this say about the show as a whole? Well, for that, we come to the next part of our show. My thoughts on Little Shop.
Well, many reviewers I watched found this show to be absolutely atrocious. I found myself disagreeing with them. It's mediocre. I could watch it again. I found it a bit entertaining, but mainly because it's Ed Wood levels of bad. In other words, it's so bad that it's good. The music is lackluster, and that's my main complaint, especially when you think about its stage counterpart. I mean, here, take a listen to the theme song of this show and the theme song of the musical.
Alright, it's time for me to bust a rhyme, so sit back and chill for a while. I'm coming at ya like Toony style, so get ready for a funny bone overload at the Little Shop. Yeah, boy, in full effect. Yo, the Little Shop posse's gaining respect, so break out before I put you in check. Little shop of horrors, little shop of terror, call the cop. Little shop of horrors, no, oh no.
The reason that that I show you both of these is because I find the music to be especially disappointing with the theme song. This is because, as YouTube critic Doug Walker, who is better known as the Nostalgia Critic, once put it, quote, "The intro is one of the most important parts of any show. It establishes the tone, style, and even story of what you're about to see," end quote. While corny theme songs can work sometimes, the cheesy rap does not fully work here. It essentially tried to be hip with the kids, but failed horribly. The stage's theme is much more timeless, memorable, and iconic because it did not try to jump on trends at the time the musical was written. Rather, it stayed true to the 1960s setting of the musical and, as a result, was able to fit into the musical and the public conscience to a much higher degree. The other choices involving music or lack thereof, as well as the act of reusing music from previous episodes, really shows how low the budget must have been. This is really sad considering the aforementioned lack of variety in the music they had at their disposal. The songs aren't well written either, especially when compared to, as I mentioned before, songs from shows that came out later in the 90s. But at the end of the day, it is enjoyable. I feel like this because when all things are considered, this show is probably the best they could have done with the not-so-kid-friendly piece of media they were given as source material. So, even though it's not good, and by no means a masterpiece, it's probably because the source material was not that easy to make into a cartoon to begin with. But now, I think it's about time that we give this show a rating. Come, let us go visit the bats. Oh, how I love the bats here at the House of Dracula. They're so kind and so helpful, and when I visit them in their belfry, they're as happy as can be. That's why I have them help me out on my show. They serve as my rating system. Just like the star rating system you mortals use, 5 bats is the highest rating, and 0 bats is the lowest. So, what rating does 1991's Little Shop get? Well, I'm giving it a rating of 3 bats, with that 3rd bat just barely squeaking out of the belfry. To put that into a star rating, I'm essentially giving it 2.5 stars. Is it the Little Shop we all know and love? Absolutely not. But, is it worth your watch? Well, I'm ending this episode by saying, give it a try and see for yourself. Thank you so much for tuning into our first episode here on YouTube. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Plus, I'd like to welcome you to put requests for shows you'd like to see me cover in the comments. We already have some plans for Season 1, so you may not see your request fulfilled for a while, but I'd love to learn all about your favorite Toony Terrors. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you for my next episode, which will be a double feature covering the Danger Mouse franchise and its spin-off Count Duckula. Until then, remember, if you're flying left, you're flying the wrong way.